Alright, now we're going to have a look at the small propeller piece, and that consists of actually a base here, which we'll model first, and then a little propeller that sticks onto it. And this is really similar to the wheels that they'll make on a lot of these. So let's start here. It's 2 by 2, but instead of starting with a 2 by 2 piece because of the way it's built, we're going to start with this 2 by 1. And just to note, this is the 2 by 1. It's actually the transparent one, because the opaque one, remember, has this little hole running down the middle of this peg, and this one doesn't. So make sure that we're using the right one here. All right, so what I'm going to do to start off here is I'm going to take this whole thing and move it over 4 millimeters. So that'll put it right with this edge running right on the center line there. Okay, and then what I'm going to do, just like I had done previously with bridging a piece across or mirroring it across, I'm going to select this entire edge here and cut it out so that we'll have a good attachment point here. Now I'm going to take this whole thing, Shift V, and I'm going to mirror it on the Z in this case. Let's click Apply, and oops, don't want to do it twice. Now I'll see that we have a nice attach point, that our edges are running cleanly across here. Check that in the non-wireframe mode, and we're pretty good. The reason this wouldn't work well with the 2 by 2 is that we wouldn't have this center line dividing it, and we actually want that because that's how the piece works. And then this one of these sides here, we'll take this side on the right, this whole part extends down one more length, and then to this side is attached the point where the propeller sticks on. So let's go ahead and let's go back over to a wireframe view first, and I'm going to take and select all of this and this here, and I'm just going to shift up arrow once, and I'm just going to bevel these down. So I'm going to make sure group polygons is on, of course, and I'm going to pull down 3.2 millimeters. It's going to get a little bit rounded and wonky, of course, but we know our friend the loop slice will be here not far behind. So let's go ahead and run 2 loop slices through here, set that to 2%. Same thing here, and same thing on the inside. Now I'll end up with some extra edges, which if we want, especially here on the inside, you can feel free to go ahead and clean up, knock those out of there. We're going to leave the ones that come in through here because we need some good geometry to be able to attach to. And actually here, if we're going to attach this, it's a circle at the base, which touches here at the top and then extends down to the middle of this piece here, to the middle of this half here. And then it has 2 tapered rectangles that go kind of like wedges from the cylinder off down, and then the little spoke comes out where this attaches to. So we're going to need a pretty significant amount of points, and we're probably actually going to even have to add some edges on. And we want to plan this well. Otherwise, we're just going to end up with kind of a mess to work with, and it's going to be more difficult. So if we want to plan this out well, we're going to need, since we have 2 rectangles here, we're going to need 3 edges on the top, bottom, and end of each rectangle in order to give us our distance across. And sorry, I take that back, we're going to need 4, so we'll need 1 at the base, 1 at the end, and then 2 slices to sharpen that, so we'll need 4 there. We'll need on the side, we'll need another 2, and then 2 to sharpen those. So that's 4, 8, and then another 4 on the bottom. We'll need 12 on each side. So we actually need 24 edges just to cover the square that or the squares that come off of the side, the wedges. And then we'll also need, you know, the remainder of the circle top and bottom arc. So what we'll want to do is create this in such a way that we can get all of the edges that we need without having you know, exorbitant amounts of extra polygons. So we want to be kind of frugal with the arches that are left here over the top. And let's see here, if I'm just going to kind of block this out here to look. I'm going to send 1 extra loop slice down, set this to 1, down here and here, and I'm actually going to create kind of a hole that would fit this here, and we're going to see how this works. So let's select all of these, and this would be where, for the most part, where we would have in those wedges, and then here in the middle, and then extending all the way up to the top. It's going to be where we have the edge there, and actually, you know what, we're probably an edge too high there. So let's back that one off there, and then we'll have this come to here so that we have the same amount, 2 edges top, 2 edges bottom. Doesn't matter that this loop slice is much tighter than this one, and all that really matters is that we have geometry to bridge to. And on the top side, it actually does come flush here, so it's going to meet up with this top edge, and it will be a real nice bridge point to start with. So let's look and see how many edges we have here. So I'm going to hold down Control and get the boundary, and see that's 28 edges, and we know we actually need 24 edges just to be able to create the rectangles. So I'm going to go back over to polygons here, and we're going to add on a little extra over here on the sides. Now these only need to come to the middle of the pegs, but by drawing out past them, that's going to give us some extra room to subdivide. So let's go ahead and go back to our boundary and look at this again. Now we're up to 32. So if we need 24, that's going to leave us 8 edges, so 4 top and 4 bottom in order to get our shape, and I think that is going to be enough. So this is going to be the area then that will place our geometry inside of. All right, so now that we know that, I'm going to go ahead and make a selection set here. So assign selection set. So I'm going to call this hub base, and that's just going to save me having to go back and reselect that later. And I'm going to go over to an empty mesh layer, and I'm going to start roughing out this geometry. So I know that I need 4 edges on top, 4 edges on the bottom, and then 4 on either side that will be extruded off to be our wedges. So that's going to give us a total of 16 sides on our cylinder here. And the cylinder also, we know, is going to be 4 millimeters across, because it will be 3.2, which is the height of one of these bricks, and then it extends down kind of a quarter of the way down, so it's going to give us another 0.8. Or let's see, sorry, am I right? Yeah, it only goes down a little bit of the way. It doesn't go down halfway into there, so it's going to be 0.8. So that's going to give us a good reference point for where we need to place this. So let's open this back up. I'm going to set my sides here up to 16, and I'm just going to draw this out here. And I'm going to want my radius to be 2 in each direction. That will give me the 4. And then what I'll do is I'll drag this up, and we're going to be looking for 1.2 might be just about exactly what we need. Okay, and again, as we look at this, we want to make sure that we're lining up edges to edges, points to points. So let's take this whole thing, move it over here to this edge. And we want to look and see here on the piece that this is going to attach to. This is just an open edge. It's not a point. There's no edge that runs down the middle of this. So what we'll want to do is let's drop our tool here, and we'll flip this. Then I'm going to take the whole thing and rotate it. It's like 12 degrees. There we go, rotate it 12 degrees. And that's going to be useful for a couple of reasons. One, it's going to give us a nice edge that will go to an edge. And two, it's actually, since this was counting my radius all the way out to the point, if I rotate around to an edge, it's going to give me a tiny, tiny bit of space, which is good. It's going to make this look like it measures up flush, but it's going to give me a little bit of space to bridge to without it being exactly on top of it and causing other problems. All right, so let's go ahead and drop that. And now the first thing here that I'm going to do with this is I'm going to take it and I'm just going to bevel it out. I'm not going to thicken or anything. I'm just going to bevel. And this needs to come out 0.8 millimeters. So let's just drag this out, 0.8, 800 UM. Okay. All right, and now this part here, and I'm sorry, I think I miscounted. I I need 3 top and bottom. That's all right. Because I need edge, 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 and I was neglecting the fact that we'll share an edge on the sides. So, wow, here I go, spouting off the math and spouting it off incorrectly. I knew it didn't sound right as I said it, but hey, that's what I get for not thinking and just talking. So I'm going to take this part here and I'm going to bevel, and then I'm just going to go straight to the move tool. I'm going to pull these out. Oops. Make sure that my symmetry is on my X symmetry. There we go. I'm just going to pull these out 100 UM, which has kind of been our traditional amount for aligning things and giving ourselves a little bit of a buffer. Now I'm going to go ahead and select the top and the bottom edge here, and I'm going to run slide. I'm going to pull this up. It's going to get a little weird at first, and that's okay. And I can pull that up to somewhere about there. Will work. And then I'm going to grab this bottom one, make sure that I get the bottom on the other side selected. Slide again, and again we're looking for that ballpark of 98% or so, which we know is going to give us a nice sharpness. Alright, so now we'll select this, this, and this. And for some reason our symmetry is not working, but never fear. As long as we make the selection, symmetry should kick in. We'll just pull that out to where it's past there. Okay. And it's going to look crazy when you first subdivide, but it's always a good idea to check it. And then we need to delete these back faces here. So let's get those and these, because we really only want open edges on this back part here, and let's just cut those out. And also helps with our subdivision if we do that. So there we go. Now from here we'll bevel these out and taper them down. There we go. Let me take this whole thing and make sure it's exactly centered here. Let me center selected on the X. Let's see if that helps our symmetry. It doesn't. That's all right. I'm not going to worry about running fixed symmetry or anything like that because I know I'm going to be editing this and working with it a bunch anyway. So I'm just gonna keep it as is here. All right. So let's go ahead and get these here, and oh, sorry. Let's unsubdivide first. So we'll grab these, and then we'll grab the ones on the opposite side. And then go to a top or a front view, either one will work. I'm just going to bevel, and since these are flush, oops, well, they're not quite flush, let's undo that. Let me go ahead and scale these flat first. Let's turn negative scale off. I'm just going to flatten that out. And I'm going to move them out just a little bit because it looks like we got ourselves a little overlapping now. So now we'll go ahead and bevel, and since this is now flush, there we go, these will go straight out so we don't have to worry about going bevel and straight to the move tool. Okay, so that will work there. And now we'll go to our top view here. And I'm just going to grab the front points on either one. I'm going to drag these down. Now we know 0.8 millimeters gets us all the way there. Again, if we do exactly 0.8, we're going to run into some real problems where we have geometry on top of geometry, and it's either going to get overly sharp or just in general look kind of bad. So, so we'll leave it there. Okay, and then we'll need a couple of loop slices running across each of these. Let's make sure I got both sides selected here. There we go. So loop slices, set our count to 2. And we'll pull those out to 2%. And we'll get tab and have a look at that. I think we're actually getting pretty darn close here. The only thing that we have left to add is a couple of loop slices that run around there. All right, so now this part is pretty much completed. We've got the tapered off edges. And now we'll just take our actual circle here, and as we bevel our circle out, we'll get we'll get our circular shape a little bit more defined again. And oops, let's grab that again. So here we need to bevel in. Let's see, what is our width there? It's going to be 1.6. So we were at 4. So to get down to 1.6, we need to subtract, sorry, 2.4. So we need to go down 1.2, and then that will give us 1.2 on each side and give us a total of 2.4. So let's drag back to 1.2, and then we'll bevel again and come up. And let's see here, before I do that, let me check the height here, double check, which is going to be 4.8 out. We'll pull it all the way out to 4.8. Then I'm going to unsubdivide for a minute so I can get kind of a better look at it. And that's looking about right. And let's see here, let me just do one quick check here. It's a good idea to check your math as you do these, because they do start to get a bit much on the math side. And so if you feel a little bit like you're upside down, it's worth having a look at it. I'm just thinking this looks a little on the thin side compared to this, but doing the math, it comes to a total of 6.4 in the height here. And let's see, we came out 4.8, which would mean we actually have 1.6. So actually I am a little bit on the short side here. So I'm just going to grab everything here in the middle. We're going to drag this out another 0.8. And that should give us the proper amount. All right, so let's go back here. I'm going to run loop slices here, loop slices here. Actually, those ones look really tight, so let me run those ones again. And these ones I'm going to drag into 4%. There we go. All right, so what we're missing now here is and this can be kind of a bear, is that here at the end of this one, there is a divot that runs halfway down, splits the middle, and then has some little lumps at the end that kind of click in the propeller when you put it. So what I'm going to do here first is I'm going to run a loop slice here, just set it to count of 1 and drop it right in the middle. Then I'm going to take this end piece here, and since I know I'm going to have to bevel this in anyway, go ahead and bevel it in our 100 UM. Tighten that up. Alright, and now what we're going to do is we want to remove this strip of polys, but we also want to remove them through the middle here. So I'm just going to select this, run my edge slice, and we'll run from here to here, and from here down to here. And I'll drop that, deselect these edges, and I've got a perfect space to delete. So let's go ahead and cut that out. And now I'm going to select the entire loop, and we want to bridge these two sides together. So let me still have my X symmetry on, so that's good. So let's deselect this one and this one. And sorry, what we want to do here actually first is we want to stick these two together. So I'm going to run my bridge tool here. Oops, sorry, I've got to turn off symmetry. That would make sense. And now I'm going to select these two edges here, run loop slice, count of 2, and we'll set that, at about, let's see, I think I used 4% on the other round part, so I'm going to use 4% here too. All right, and now this gives us a good start of a place to attach these. And what I'll do is I'll take this part and this part. Oops, let's turn our symmetry back on. We'll make our selection over here too. And we'll bridge that. Again, it's going to look kind of funny. That's okay. We can grab this edge and this edge here at the bottom. Make sure we do it on both sides. And then I'm going to run a loop slice. I'll just set it to, actually let's just drop it in there. It's going to be easier just to do that, and then take and remove these back ones. So now we're left with just these edges here that need to be bridged together. And just as we've done in other pieces, we'll deselect the back. Oops. Let's make sure we get both sides here. So we'll select the back edges, front edges, bridge and click. We'll have that set. Same thing down here on the bottom. So we'll select this edge, deselect the front and the back, bridge again. And now we need to run some loop slices to tighten this, but we have to be careful where exactly we place these. And that's because if we place them at a bad point, it's going to cause us some real issues later. So actually, first thing we need to do here is flatten this out. So let me grab these polygons, these ones, and these ones. Run my scale tool, set my action center to element, just click on one of these faces, we'll flatten those out so we get a nice flush edge here. And we have a couple of choices here. We could actually run a loop slice, and I think that might be what I'm going to do here. Let's. There are two ways to tighten this up. We have a loop that runs, it's going to run all the way around. So if I select this loop, you can see I've got this that runs all the way around. So what I can do is I can just run a single loop slice. This is probably going to be the good one. I'm going to run it on free, and then I'm just going to pull it kind of out towards the edge here. I don't even have to get particularly close. Something like 10 or even 15% will probably do the job. Actually, I think it does. There we go. And then we also have the loop out here that we need to worry about. But this one is, again, can just be handled with a single slice. And in this case, I'm going to pull out. I'm going to go for that 15% or 85 because I'm going the other direction. That'll work. So let's check this in our unshaded view. Okay, so we have one thing left to worry about, and that's this back point here. It's getting a little bit too roundy or too deep in the roundness. But before I look at that, let's go ahead and up our subdivision level a couple of notches so that we can see this. All right, so let's take these here and oops, if I select them in the same direction on both of them, that way and that way. And then we're just going to look for the point where this looks rounded, but we're still keeping a straight edge up in front of it. I think 10% seems to do the trick nicely. Okay, so we have one last thing to add here, and that is this little divot that, that happens around here. Let's go back to our wireframe view. And I think the way that I'm actually going to add this is not going to be by beveling, but I'm going to actually just look at scaling this edge out. So what I'll need to do in order to add that in is I need to add another loop slice up here pretty close. So actually, let's unsubdivide here. I'm probably going to want to take these edges here and move them back a little to get kind of my desired depth here. I don't have an exact measurement on these because this is really minuscule, but let's see what our measurement is there. Go to View and our Dimensions tool. It looks like we're looking at 125 UM. That's probably a little on the light side. So let's go back. See, we're at 125. I kind of want to go for 200, so let's just drag this out about 75. And that's now at 199.8. Yeah, we'll call that close enough. So now I'm going to run, again, a loop slice here and here. And I'm going to pull it down, and we're just going to make it the same diameter as this loop slice down at the other edge. And now what I'm going to do is select all the way around here and all the way around here. Turn my symmetry off. Let's get out of our dimensions tool there. Then I'm just going to scale this out, and I turned off my symmetry so I can scale right from center. I'm just going to pull this out like that. This is pretty subtle, so I'm just going to go for right there, about 105%. Let's click it down and do 105 even. And now if I hit subdivide at first, it's just going to look a little on the weak side. So we can run loop slices. Oops, sorry, I set that to 2 in symmetry. And loop slices here first, and then we'll run loop slices here as well. And now we'll set that back down to 1 free, and we'll drag it up towards here. And again, we can just kind of aim for the amount of softness that we want, something like that. Now this leaves us once again one little problem, that's that this is not flush, which is, you know, not a big deal. We've dealt with this before. We'll just select this and this, shift up arrow twice, and we'll give me the whole selection here. Scale, set my action center to element, click on one of the inside flat faces. Oops, helps if I turn symmetry on, and then we just flatten that out, and we're good to go. Alright, so now we have this part ready. Now we just need to attach it here. So let's get a count here of, oops, we need to remove some back polygons here. Let's get rid of these. And these. Cut those out. Let's get that loop, and we're looking at 32 edges. I think I had said 36 or something like that because I added a few extra, but that's okay. So let's take all this, and I'm going to copy it for now. Again, I always like to keep my stuff intact. I mean, if I think it's a good idea later, I might need to use it. Let me apply our base gray material on there so we have everything. I'm going to go up and pull that selection set up, and since I've got this in front, that's actually really going to be useful. So let's use selection set. Name is hub base, and then I'm going to, and it looks like we might need to adjust that a little bit, but that's okay. We can add those 2 edges right there, delete those right there, and let's look and see what our boundary is. 30 edges, so we need to add 2 edges, which we need to figure out where we need to add them, and that's going to be the important part here. So along the top, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's right. And then here we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Here we just have 1, 2. So this is going to be, that might be a little bit of an issue there. And then here we have 1, 2, 3. Here we got 1, 2, 3, 4. So again, that might be a little bit of an issue. And on the bottom we have 5 and 5. So we know that this bottom edge lines up to this edge pretty well. We know that we have enough here, probably 1 extra edge, so that might be a little bit weird. So I think we might be best to add in a loop right around here. And then that's going to give us 3 that will line up to through this section, and then it will give us a little bit better space to round around there. So let me go ahead and recall that selection that we had, because it's going to be easier to use that and then kind of move a little bit from there than to draw it all from scratch. So let's deselect those, add those. Let's check what's our boundary at now. 32. Okay, 32 works, except we need to grab this edge and move it up. Just so we know we've got coverage there and we got it up above. Okay, so again, I can go back to my polygons, and then go back to my boundary. Check that. Looks good. Okay, so we'll go to our polygons, we'll cut that out. Select that loop that we made. Select this loop here, and then we'll run the bridge tool, reverse our direction, and we should be pretty close here, just right off the bat. Shouldn't require too much in the way of loop slicing. I'll run 1 slice. Oops, probably the wrong one to run it on. Let's see, let's check, do we have, yeah, there's a whole loop here, so let's run it in there. I don't want to go overly tight because it's going to get really tight up towards the top in some of the areas. Let's go for 10%. There we go. All right, so there is our hub. Now we'll build the propeller that sticks onto it. So I'm going to reuse geometry, waste not, want not. So let's loop, copy, and paste. And I'm going to unsubdivide this for now so that I can get a better look at what I've got going on. And I'm going to grab these front edges here, or these front points, excuse me. Set my action center to automatic. I'm going to pull these down to just behind that little lip here. And let me put the piece together here so I can see it better. Yep, so it goes right behind that little lip with a little bit of daylight there. All right. And then this piece thickens out. So let's take this entire thing and we'll run the thicken tool. We'll pull it out. It actually goes out to about halfway through the little ramp that runs off to the sides there. Something about like that. Runs to about half the height of the bump, so that's looking fairly correct there. Okay, and we still have our same 16 sides, which is good too, because we're going to need 3 for one of the propeller blades, 3 for that one, 3 for that one, and then we want, oops, I can't count. So it looks like we've got one edge too many. How many was this again? 16. So what we want is we want 3, and then a gap of 2, and then 3, and a gap of 2, and then 3. So actually it looks like we need 15. So, oh well, so are the best laid plans, right? I'm going to go in here to my cylinder tool. Fortunately, I can use this as a template. Let's hide the rest of our stuff here. And I'm going to set this to 15 sides. We're going to drag this out. And let's see here. Go for 2.8 in each direction. Might be a little on the shallow side. Let's go up to 2.9 or 2.85, pardon me. Nah, I take it back. I'm gonna stick with the 2.8. I like it being a little bit more numerical than otherwise. So we'll drag it out for depth. And grab the front and the back. Bevel those. We'll come in. If we don't quite meet that, actually this might be ideal because then we'll have a little bit of daylight there. And then I'm going to go ahead and run my bridge tool. And we'll stick those together. Ah, yes, reverse the direction again. There we go. Okay, so now we have this part ready again. Pardon the detour. And what we'll want to do is we're going to create propeller blades that will base off of 3 edges. So again, we'll have, I'm going to run 3 edges off of this side to start, and then we'll skip 2, 3, skip 2, 3, and then we should be skip 2, which is just right. And these will actually run, they're only going to be initially the, going to be about 1/4 the height here, so let's go ahead and 1/4 the length here. So I'm going to loop slice 2, set that to symmetry. Actually, we'll leave it right there. So now what I want to do is I want to take these 3 and I want to move these back so that we get an even taper. So the front end, or excuse me, this bottom end is going to be closer over here. Top end is going to be closer over there. So, and then the same thing will happen on these 3, and the same thing will happen on these 3. So I need to keep an eye on my points, and we're going to want to move things accordingly. So let's start then going to get this front edge here, and I'm going to move it forward. We'll go 0.9. Looks about right. I'm going to get this last edge on this prop here. And move it back 0.9. Next, let's do 0.8. Drag this one back 100. We're even. And this one then will go forward. Let's see. I think we need half the distance. We want, oh gee, a third the distance. So maybe the 0.9 was going to be better. Drag this up 100 again. And this one will drag back 100. And this one will drag back 300. And that way we have an even edge through here. So let's go ahead and do the same thing. We'll skip 2, so this one, and then this edge will drag up. And then we can find our next one here so that we don't have to do it again. So here was our prop here, skip 2, and then 1, 2, 3, this one here. So these ones are going to go forward, 0.9. Then this one, and I'm going to just add to my selection for the moment to keep myself right side up. This one, and then I'll deselect the outer edge ones. We'll go 300. And again, I'm going to add to my selection just to keep right side up. That one and that one. We'll go back 300. And then this one. And this one. We'll go back 900. Oops. All right, now we still have our selection if we look, and now our selection has tapered evenly. So I'm going to go bevel, and then we need to go out. Let's actually, before we bevel then, let's do this. We're going to drop in a reference piece to help us with our spacing, because from the center point, the propeller that goes straight out is going to cross 2 spaces, but that's including the hub, so we want to be able to subtract that from it. It's going to be a lot easier if we have something to reference in there at the same time. So let's go over to our layout. Actually, let's go ahead and save this one because this one's a little in-depth, so we'll call this prop 1. We'll save that file. And let's go ahead and add in a piece that we can use as our reference for size there. And that one actually will be perfect, but what we're going to do is take the whole thing, oops, turn off our symmetry. I'm going to drag it over this way 4 millimeters. Yeah. So that we're going from the center of a piece, or actually, sorry, take it back. And we want to go from in between pieces, we want to go out to there, so actually it's fine just where it was actually placed. Let's go back over to our main layer here, and we'll want to be careful to check our distances here and then apply those to the other propeller blades here. So let's bevel, and I'm going to go straight to the move tool, and I'm going to pull this out. Looks like, go for 13.4 because I don't want it to quite overlap. So 13.4 there, and this one, the bevel. Now we're going to run into a problem here. If I just try to drag this out 13.4, it's not going to work because we're going to be dragging it away from something that's not center. So we could align our work plane here to this, and it might do this. Let's try that here. Let's take our work plane and align it to the center piece of that propeller. And let's see, did I already bevel that? Yes, I did. So let's go up 13.4. That looks like that's actually going to work pretty well. Oops, 13.4. Okay, and then I'm going to take this centerpiece here, align my work plane to that, select it, bevel, move, 13.4. I'm going to reset my work plane, so we're back to normal, and we'll hit the tab key to start looking at this in subd mode, and we're actually getting pretty close. So I'm going to run loop slices up to the edges there, we'll go for 2%, and then same thing front and back, we'll run our loop slices. That will give us the actual depth where that attaches, and now we should have a little bit of flush space in between, just little loop slices front and back. There we go, and some down the middle, just to make sure we get that nice and solid. So let's hide that other reference piece we just placed in there. And I'm going to run a quick check here to see for distance, how things are lining up. I think what I'm going to do here is, just to keep from having lumpiness, so I'm going to run loop slices here. And the only problem was that the subdivision pulling was kind of giving us that little bit rounded look at the end of the propeller, but let's go ahead and do that manually instead, and that will allow for us to have a lot more control over it. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to grab these three. Actually, sorry, let's look here and do this in our side view so we can just get the edges we actually want. I'm going to take these and drag these in. Let's be pretty subtle on this. Go for 600 UM. And that's looking definitely about right. So we need to drag the other ones in 600 UM, but again, we've got to be aligned in order to do so. So let's grab that in polygon there, align our workspace to it, and then I'm going to grab these verts and those verts, drag those back 0.6. Okay, and looks like we're just left with this one. So we'll grab this polygon here, align our workspace, and those vertices once again, and drag them back 0.6. We can reset our work plane, and let's go in and we'll delete this this one that we had created with the wrong amount of edges that was based off of our hub. So let's go ahead and delete that. Made a nice reference, but now we're done with it. And then we're also going to delete, let's make sure we've got the actual thing there. Yeah, there we do. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this copy geometry. And we'll drag this up next to it here. Let's have a look at that. We should be just about right. There we go. All right, so we've got a propeller ready to go. We can even, if we want, set up a locator at the center of this, and it'll spin for us. But yeah, we're ready to move on. 2 pieces left. See you in the next video.